It's Nolan. First thing on the docket again is Drake's splits. Let's talk about it. I've actually got access to the lawsuit, which was filed back in, well, the lawsuit was originally filed in 2012, the first lawsuit. But I have the version of the lawsuit which was filed in 2017 between Aspire Music Group and Cash Money Records. Aspire Music Group is the first deal that Drake had. This is when he first signed with Jazz Prince, aka J Prince Jr. And they had some sort of arrangement with Cash Money where they were supposed to do a profit sharing type of deal with Drake where they would partner together. So he came in under false pretenses of things, and money wasn't being paid to him nor to his group, or to his smaller label. So when you come out here and try to accuse people of doing splits that they pants might rip, your shit was already distressed for a while. You know what I'm saying? Niggas had already threw your shit in bleach. Niggas had already cut the holes out the motherfucking kneecaps. And to some, they might, once we get through this, niggas might say they cut the ass out on your shit like Prince. But I don't want to go that far. Okay? But I'm going to pull up the actual lawsuit so everybody can see it on Front Street. I believe people did talk about this years ago on YouTube, but who's going back to those videos? Who's talking about it in 2024? I don't see people talking about it. So let's bring up the somewhat hidden truth behind this man's deal. All right, so this was filed January 11th, 2017 with the Supreme Court of the State of New York. Aspire Music Group, a LLC limited liability company, filed in Florida versus Cash Money Records, a Louisiana corporation. All right. Plaintiff is Aspire Music Group. Again, this is from Jazz Prince, the company he started. Also aligned with that company were Tez Bryant, aka Wayne's childhood best friend. I won't say childhood best friend, but best friend from, around the time he was in the latter years of high school and forward, because Cortez is a little bit older than Wayne. But of course, we know he's closely associated with Cash Money as well. And then there was a third partner with the company as well. I think his name was Derek Lawrence, whom Jazz Prince also sued for financial reasons. So we'll move forward now. Plaintiff, Aspire Music Group, LLC, by and through its undersigned counsel, as and for its complaint against defendant Cash Money Records Incorporated, hereby alleges the following upon information and belief. Okay. Introduction. This is an action for breach of contract, accounting, unjust enrichment trust, conversion, and constructive. 2, venue is proper in New York County because defendant conducts business in New York County. A substantial part of the events giving rise to the alleged claims occurred in New York County and pursuant to CPLR. Parties. Aspire Music Group, LLC, as I told y'all. Cash Money, as I told y'all. Statement of facts. Aubrey Graham, professionally known as Drake, is a popular hip-hop rap recording artist in North America. On or about December 10th, 2008, Drake signed an exclusive recording artist agreement with Plaintiff Aspire. Said agreement provided Plaintiff Aspire the ability to negotiate with third parties to furnish Drake's services to others for the purpose of creating musical recordings. On or about June 26, 2009, Aspire entered into a memorandum of agreement with defendant Cash Money Records Incorporated / Young Money Entertainment, pursuant to which Aspire furnished the exclusive recording services of Drake to Cash Money. Pursuant to this agreement, Drake's gross compensation will be paid to Cash Money. That would in turn be responsible for payments to Aspire and to the artist. So let's just break this down in simple terms, right? Drake first signed with Aspire. Then somewhere in 2009, Aspire did a deal with Cash Money in which Cash Money was to receive his monies, his earnings. And Cash Money was then supposed to pay Aspire a portion of that money. And then from there, a portion of the money would go to Drake personally, right? So that's a 3-way split already. Now, pursuant to the agreement, We talked about that. All right. Pursuant to the agreement, Drake's gross compensation would be paid to Cash Money that would in turn be responsible for payments to Aspire and to the artist. On or about August 12, 2009 and August 13, 2009, defendant Cash Money filed 4 trademark applications seeking registered trademarks from the United States Patent and Trademark Office for marks affiliated with Drake, including the words Drake and Drizzy Drake. So at that time, Cash Money filed trademarks owning Drake's name and alias Drizzy Drake. Which today, I wonder who owns BBL Drizzy. Just being funny, I'm playing. Pursuant to the agreement, defendant has had a continuing obligation to make payments to plaintiff Aspire and provide accountings related to the same Aspire agreement up until the present. Plaintiff now seeks a full accounting, including any and all books and records regarding Drake's full sales history, cumulative mechanical royalties, marketing costs, and producer royalties, recording costs, and accompanying statements, and any and all of the relevant financial information regarding any revenue and or profits associated with Drake's music. So at this point, they want all records associated with Drake's name and music to see how much money he had actually generated so that they can calculate how much they're actually owed. Plaintiff hereby demands that defendant Cash Money account and pay to plaintiff its share of revenue from Drake's recording sales. To date, there have been no documents produced that can confirm whether plaintiff's proper share of revenue from Drake's recording sales have ever been provided by defendant. Now, keep in mind, this is 2017. They're saying they have no records of what they were supposed to be paid. So at this point, there had already been, 5 or 6 Drake albums released, and they had no records of what he had earned. What the is going on here? We'll get to all that though, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just giving y'all context as to how this played out. Defendant continued to employ stall tactics and repeatedly refused to provide the aforesaid documents necessary for plaintiff to determine how much money it is owed from the sale of Drake's recordings through and including the present. Defendant has a continuing obligation to pay plaintiff related to profit advances, net profits, and other advances due to Drake. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's actions and or inactions complained of herein, plaintiff has suffered irreparable harm and damage and has been forced to retain the undersigned counsel and agreed to pay it as a reasonable fee for its services. All prerequisites to filing suit have been satisfied, have occurred, or have been waived. They say and for a first cause of action, breach of contract. The plaintiff repeats, reiterates, and re-alleges each and every allegation contained in paragraphs 1 through 17. On or about June 26, 2009, the parties entered into the agreement, right? Pursuant to the agreement, plaintiff was to receive 1/3 ownership in the matters. So Aspire was supposed to have 1/3 ownership over Drake. Pursuant to the agreement, paragraph 7, Aspire shall be entitled to 33.3% of net profits derived from the commercial exploitation of Drake's recordings. Now, I would love to know, was Drake included in that 33%? Because, of course, you can have 33% for Aspire. You can have 33% for Cash Money. But who was the 33% on the other side? Was it Universal? Because then that would be 3 motherfuckers getting paid before him. And I'm quite sure that's what it was. But let's continue. Plaintiff has complied with all conditions precedent and all its obligations pursuant in the agreement, or they have been waived. As a result of the actions and or inactions defendant Cash Money, plaintiff has been damaged in an amount to be determined at trial. Plaintiff has retained the services of the undersigned counsel to represent it in this matter and has agreed to pay all costs and reasonable attorney's fees. No part of said sum has been paid despite due demand. Wherefore, plaintiff requests that this honorable court award judgment based on the damages proven at trial, interest costs, attorney fees, and whatever this court otherwise deems just and proper. For second cause of action, they reiterate all of the same. Let's go to 28. Pursuant to the agreement and based on defendant's acceptance to be obligated to account and to make payments to plaintiff based on profit advances, net profits, and other advances in connection with Drake, a fiduciary relationship has been created and does exist between plaintiff and defendant. The sum of money due to plaintiff from defendant includes, but is not limited to, profit advances, net profits, and other advances derived from Drake's recording agreement and calculated consistent with the terms therein. Okay? They say the sum of money due continues to accumulate and grow daily. Without a proper accounting, it is impossible for plaintiff to ascertain the true amount in which it is due. Plaintiff currently has no access whatsoever to any accounting documents representing funds obtained by or payments made by defendant as a result of profit advances, etc. So they keep, the legal jargon, they keep repeating themselves. They say since the books and records are solely and exclusively within defendant's control, they can't get access to it. Hence, plaintiff has no means by which to determine the true amounts owed, and that defendant has improperly withheld from disbursement to plaintiff. Plaintiff is entitled to appropriate relief in the form of an accounting and inspection of all relevant books. So at this point, they want to do audits on the accounting. Okay. We're going to skip some of this because, again, it's got a lot of repetitive nature to it. In this third course of action here, they're continuing to say that they haven't received any of their 1/3 profits, right? Fourth cause of action here, the defendant has intentionally misappropriated funds belonging to plaintiff, derived directly from the profit advances, net profits, and other advances under Drake's recording agreement for Cash Money's own use. Said funds are readily identifiable. However, plaintiff has not been provided any accountings or books and or records to allow plaintiff the opportunity to determine the amount of money that has been unjustly converted by defendant Cash Money. So at this point, they're saying that there's a misappropriation of funds and somebody's being paid, but not them. Okay. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit without missing too many details. This is the fifth cause of action here. They say this is account for tortious interference against Cash Money with the contractual advantages, business agreements between Aspire and Drake. So tortious interference, that's like somebody trying to interfere on the money. You know what I mean? Like another party comes in and is trying to get into the head of somebody, or we'll read through this. You know what I mean? And I remember this because Dame Dash was accusing Def Jam of running tortious interference with Jay-Z when they were trying to recruit him to leave Rockefeller. So that's where I became familiar with this terminology. They say at all times relevant, plaintiff established contractual and advantages business relationships with Drake, which inter alia entitled plaintiff to be paid a sum equal to 1/3 of Drake's earnings from profit advances, that which we already talked about. Cash Money intentionally and unjustifiably interfered with the contractual and advantages business relationships between plaintiff and Drake, of which plaintiff is intended beneficiary. Plaintiff has been severely damaged and irreparably harmed. All right. So this was enacted and dated with a demand for a jury trial as of January 9th, 2017. All right. So that's the lawsuit. This thing continued for an additional 2 years, by the way, to where they finally settled out of court for an undisclosed number. But Jazz Prince, Jay Prince's son, on the heels of this being out there, he had filed a $11 million lawsuit saying that he was entitled to $11 million. That's not even Drake's cut, right? That's just his cut that he felt he was being cut out of the deal, right? But we've got a little bit more details that have been released since then. which we're going to get into. So at the point where this $11 million lawsuit comes into play, it's stated that Jazz Prince said Young Money screwed him out of Drake profits. Lil Wayne's Young Money and his manager, Cortez Bryant. Cortez was working with Wayne, Cash Money, also working with Drake, Jazz Prince, and Aspire. So he was an intermediary between all of these parties. He ends up being implicated for stealing money as well. Okay. So Lil Wayne, Young Money, and manager Cortez Bryant have reached a settlement in a nasty legal battle with Jazz Prince over $11 million in allegedly unpaid royalties made from rapper Drake. Both sides hashed out a deal where Jazz Prince agreed to dismiss all claims against the defendants in exchange for a confidential settlement. Okay. He explained that he discovered Drake back in 2007. At that point, Jazz then signed Drake to Aspire Music Group, who then got him a deal with Cash Money, right? But again, Aspire Music Group consisted of Jazz Prince, Cortez Bryant, and that other guy, Derek. So they were all trying to leverage their relationships to get him closer to the Cash Money destination. They were all coming together to make that a thing. Excuse me. At this point, the label agreed to pay 22% of all of Drake's advances and net profits to Jazz Prince. Now remember, Aspire was supposed to make 33%. Out of Aspire's 33% cut, Jazz Prince, aka J Prince Jr., Mob Ties, as we would refer to him and his team today, he was supposed to get 22% out of that. I don't understand how you have a label and your partners are only entitled to 11% of the profits on an artist, which means that they're splitting 5.5%. They're literally making nothing off of it. But keep in mind, Cortez was also managing Drake, right? So he was going to get another 15% on the management side, or 20%, depending on what their thing is. Because you can, in a management contract, you will pay 15 to 20%. So I guess it's like, hey, I ain't tripping off of eating off the masters, because off of his overall business, I'll get paid an additional 15. Now this other guy, Derek Lawrence, I think his name was, he was still getting 5%, which is terrible. But I mean, Drake made a lot of money, so 5% of anything still ends up being, you still come out on top if you actually ever get to touch it. But at that point, that's what Jazz was talking about. Okay. Lil Wayne's label fired back, claiming that they never did a deal with Jazz and that the contract was signed by Aspire. So Cash Money comes back and they start, twisting the story, saying, hey, we didn't do a deal with you. We did a deal with your company. So hit your partners up about what's going on, because we don't know what y'all niggas inside deal was. We just wanted the artist. Birdman and them niggas are slick. They don't like to pay nobody. We already know that. The same year that all of this stuff really came to a head, Lil Wayne started investigating his own finances. So that's just a little bit of extra context there too. And they say, hey, Aspire is the one who's supposed to be getting Drake's royalty checks. Cash Money contended that if Jazz had an issue, he needed to take it up with them. Jazz also filed a lawsuit in New York against Wayne's and Drake's manager at that time, Cortez Bryant, an executive of Aspire, claiming he screwed him over on the Drake deal, right? Bryant came out and blasted those accusations and said Aspire didn't screw him out of anything, but rather Cash Money was the one screwing him and his company out of the royalty checks, and therefore they couldn't pay Jazz any of what he was owed. So if anyone is keeping score here, if y'all want to understand why Drake is still so closely associated with Jazz Prince, is because he had to make this nigga whole. He had gone through his whole entire career, 10 years. He signed Drake in 2007 on a Women of Prayer, saying, I believe in you, and I'm gonna get you to Wayne. I got the connections to get you to Wayne. I can make this happen, right? He makes good on his promise. He gets him signed to Cash Money. But then he went 10 years associated with him where he wasn't being paid his just due from the contractual obligation. I don't personally rock with Jazz Prince or the J Prince family, but looking into this situation, I understand why Drake still associates himself with them and keeps them close, because they had been effectively fucked for a decade, right? And it was under Jazz's own, let's say, hunch, that he believed that Cash Money started going around him, right? And started giving Drake his own advances, giving him his own agreements and stuff like that to keep him happy, to appease him. But yet Jazz, the one who discovered him, was still not getting anything from it. This shit get deep, y'all. The manager explained that they had been attempting to audit, and when I say the manager, I'm talking about Cortez, explained he had been attempting to audit Cash Money's financial records to determine how much Drake's music brought in and how much they were owed, which I do believe he was attempting to audit Cash Money, because again, he was also representing Wayne, who was not being properly paid either. They were giving Wayne cars and other forms of property, but were not financially compensating him, right? They were keeping him happy with items and things of that nature. Cortez then claimed that Jazz has been paid his percentage from all money they received from Cash Money. So he's saying, although we're not getting all of the money, they're fucking us, but out of what we have received, you've gotten your cut, which was basically 22% of nothing, right? However, he said that it hasn't been much because Cash Money hasn't paid what's due. Bryant was at that point, and Bryant is Tez or Cortez. He demanded that the lawsuit be thrown out. The legal battle at that point was pending for months, really years, with both sides battling out in court. Jazz even filed docs saying he was now owed a total of $11 million in royalties and accused Tez Bryant and Aspire of refusing to collect on the money that they were owed. He said he believed this was due to Bryant and Lil Wayne's close friendship. So he was saying, hey, I think you're afraid to actually go against these niggas because you're so close to Wayne. You're too close to Comfort. You're making money on all three ends. You're making money off of Wayne. You're making money off of Drake. You're making money on behalf of my company. And I ain't getting shit out of it. And I brought you this nigga. Woo! I'm telling y'all, man, let's speak on percentage. Show me your splits. I'll be sure to double back with you. You was signed to a nigga that signed to a nigga that said he was signed to that nigga. Y'all see how that shit makes sense? Now, of course, Pusha T was originally the one who started alluding to this, right? Even that line there was a repurposing of what Pusha T had already said years ago. You signed to one nigga that signed to one nigga that signed to another nigga, right? He said that in what, 2013, 14, something like that? So that was, people were, you know what I mean? We had already heard it. Those of y'all that don't listen to Pusha T or didn't know much about those records that were out at that time, it wouldn't have made sense. But now it makes sense, right? So let's just look at what was released in that time period. He released the So Far Gone mixtape, which I believe is platinum on its own. He released his debut major label album, Thank Me Later, platinum and beyond. Take Care, quadruple platinum. Nothing Was the Same, triple platinum. Views, quadruple platinum. Scorpion, platinum and beyond. During this run in which Drake was at the top of the industry and still is, he reportedly earned over $75 million. This was as of 2020 with this article that I'm reading, $75 million. But issues were starting to surface with his labels Cash Money and Aspire, right? We talked about all that. So they say from 2013 to 2020, Drake's inner circle engaged in painstaking negotiations, which we just spoke on, with Cash Money to acquire the rights to his masters. At some point, they wanted to try to get it back. The talks were described as extremely tough, nasty at times, petty, and venomous, but Drake knew owning his masters meant long-term creative and financial freedom. In 2016, frustrated with all of the stalling, Drake even came out himself, right? He said that he would withhold releasing new albums to Cash Money. Now, if you look back at the albums I just named, Thank Me Later came out 2010, Take Care came out 2011, Nothing Was the Same came out in 2013. So at that point, he had taken a 2-year break. Between Nothing Was the Same and Views, 3 years. Views came out 2016, Nothing Was the Same came out 2013. In between these album releases, because everything really came to its like nexus 2016, 2017. So they had to figure some shit out. Of course, there were tours and things like that in between, but they were also trying to negotiate how to get him his money, right? Because he was basically performing, breaking even. He had money, right? But he didn't have what he needed. He basically was operating off of credit. So Drake came out himself and said, I want to be able to operate with full creative freedom. I'm not a subsidiary. I'm not this kid anymore. That was 2016. He voiced his own frustration and said, I'm not a subsidiary, right? And we know when it comes to companies, you have the big company. Then you got these other smaller companies that fall under line, which are called subsidiaries. At this point, he wanted to become his own boss and form OVO Sound. They claim by 2020, Drake had finally negotiated his release from Cash Money and Aspire for likely a high cost over $10 million. I would assume it was even more than $10 million. But that's what Cash Money owed Jazz. This brought full ownership of his masters going forward to his label, October's Very Own, which he founded back in 2012. But of course, even though he founded it in 2012, he wasn't able to explore the full capability of said company until later. Okay. So they say for starters, he owns 100% of his masters today from the last 3 albums at that point. Nothing Was the Same, Views, and Scorpion, right? Because this was released in 2020. They say his album certified for over 30 million units sold in the US alone. I think he's somewhere over 100 million at this point today. He did go on to create and invest in other businesses such as OVO's clothing line. His music has generated over 200 million, and this is still 2020. It had generated over $200 million estimated annually from Spotify and streaming. Of course, he had music sales and publishing, which generated millions of dollars. Then he had the touring, which he now owns his own touring company. And then he's got equity investments all over the place. So Drake really didn't start seizing everything that he could have until the turn of 2020. We've been talking 30 minutes about this nigga's bad deal. And then you come out 4 years later after you finally are on a path to, being the master of your destiny. And you want to try to talk about a nigga having a 50-50 split. You never had a 50-50 split. You had like a fucking, like if your label, if Cash Money was getting 33, Universal getting 33, Aspire's getting 33, and your percentage was supposed to be out of the 33 to Aspire, you wasn't getting shit. You would have killed for a 50-50 split in them early years. So what are we even talking about? That shit, this nigga's crazy. Oh, man. But I want to give a big shout out to someone who brought this to my attention a couple of days ago, which is what inspired me to even go find these lawsuits and all of that. Shout out to 369 Lounge, aka Academy Hustler from Twitter, who put out screenshots of the lawsuit, which said to me, let me go find the actual text. I don't want screenshots because screenshots can be manipulated out of order. And I think this was a screenshot of somebody's synopsis of what was said. So I wanted to go dig and find the real text. So that's what I showed y'all today. All right. More power to Drake. Now, people may ask, or people have been asking, where does he go from here? Well, let's explore that. Big shout out to Justin Tinsley for writing this article. Very, very dope journalist who's been around for a very long time. He states, Kendrick Lamar's 35th birthday, Drake released Honestly Nevermind. I didn't know that he released that on Kendrick's birthday. That definitely seems a little personal. He said the house music inspired album carried the record Massive, featuring the salient melody, I Know My Funeral Gonna Be Lit Because of How I Treated People. On June 19th, 2 days after his 37th birthday, Lamar ensured those lyrics would never again be heard in a celebratory light. Lamar's Juneteenth concert at the Pop-Out wasn't a funeral, dubbed Gang Chella on social media for its heavy focus on artists from various Los Angeles neighborhood and gang sets. It was a lyrical and figurative declaration of allegiance, thus making Wednesday night a pivotal shift in Drake's career. It also begs the simple, complex question, what's next for him? As in Drake. They say of all the questionable decisions Drake made during the battle, perhaps the most baffling was attempting to use Lamar's hometown against him. From fashion to social media, AI, and even on wax, I get more love in the city where you from, nigga, he rapped on push-ups. Drake's miscalculation played out on the world stage and directly into Kendrick's favor. On the battle's final punch, Drake waved a proverbial white flag on the Heart Part 6. By then, the venom of Euphoria was still very much potent. The vindictiveness of Meet the Grrrls, released only minutes after Drake's heater of a diss in Family Matters, was made sure that the beef hit a point of no return, and Not Like Us had already become a firestorm he couldn't extinguish. Kendrick's concert was yet another wicked display of bullying that made Drake's loss all the more poignant. I don't feel like it's bullying, though. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you're beating a nigga up in a match and the ref don't stop the fight, are you not supposed to keep swinging? Moving forward, much like in 2015 with Meek Mill and certainly in 2018 with Pusha T, Drake's supposed character flaws were the primary target of Lamar's siege. Lyrics such as "Only You Like Being Famous" on Euphoria or "Take That Mask Off, I Want to See What's Under Them Achievements," "Why Believe You, You Never Gave Us Nothing to Believe In" from Meet the Grrrls, or "Your Reality Can't Hide Behind Wi-Fi" from 616 in LA, or the ubiquitous A minor and the Atlanta-centric third verse cut with a sadistic edge from Not Like Us, of course. Where Drake asserted dominance for years, reminding peers and foes of chart success or his own bank account, none of that mattered to Kendrick, a superstar in his own right. We talked about all of this stuff. So they go on to say, listen to much of Drake's music in the last several years, and much of it is based on moving wiser and more strategically than his foes. However, on the biggest of stages against the most dangerous of his enemies, Drake showed that the art of war is not his trump card. He was outclassed, outthought, and outbarred, leaving him in quite an unfamiliar spot for himself, fans, and critics. Moving forward, business as usual is not an option for Drake. There's no dropping a song or even an album expecting to erase whatever mistakes the past may be polluted by. After his spat with Pusha T, the dwindling quality of his music became louder and louder. But Drake continued to hold a Vice-like residency at or near the top of the charts. The stain of the past, though, haunted Drake. Fans relentlessly reminded him of the loss he admitted to taking on a 2019 Rap Radar interview. Drake continued to take not-so-veiled shots at Pusha T on records like Travis Scott's Meltdown and Jack Harlow's Churchill Downs. And what's not being mentioned is all the additional shots he took at Kanye after allegedly squashing that beef at the Larry Hoover concert. This is wholly different. Lamar was not only the superior rapper in the battle, Lamar warped Drake at his own game with an anthem that's already the song of the summer and the number one song in the country. It's not number one anymore, but it might actually rise back up on the heels of the Pop Out because the streams are actually trending back upward. Just last week, the streams were trending down. They're going back up. I want to see if I can find that. I saw that the other day. I'm gonna see if I can pull that up. So Not Like Us on Spotify just 4 days ago. That means last week, on the heels of right before the pop out coming into the weekend, because this is, of course, today would be 51, I believe. But before the pop out, it was at around 4 million plays on Spotify, right? Then after that, it went up to 5 million, and over the weekend, 6 million, day 48 and 49. So the song again is trending upward. It's the most streamed rap song on Spotify right now. It's the most streamed rap song on all platforms, as a matter of fact. 370 million fucking streams, man. And again, it's not all about the numbers. When we talk about music, it's about the feeling. It's about, the people, what you actually enjoy. But going against Drake, he is the numbers guy. So if Drake is getting outnumbered by this record, that just goes to show you how the people are feeling about him and how people are feeling about Kendrick at this point. All right, we'll get back to the article. So they say this is wholly different. Lamar was not only the superior rapper, we talked about that, but he warped Drake at his own game with an anthem that's already sung in the summer. And number one song, we already got that. Not Like Us could be nominated for Song of the Year at the 2025 Grammys, likely among several other awards. At every social gathering and many sporting events nationwide, there are bound to be endless people partying to a hit record, calling him a pedo, a fake friend, and a colonizer. Outside of that exists records and no turning back bars attacking every fabric of his persona down to surgically constructed abdomen muscles. Okay? A constant theme in Drake's music has been his part paranoia, part aggression toward the music industry, praying for his downfall. Maybe it was jealousy or Drake's own actions. Whatever the answer, those chickens came home to roost. There is no erasing that from the moment like that was released in March. Aside from The Game and Snoop Dogg, the rush to publicly support Drake's defense was insignificant. In the most intense moment of his career, the greatest hit maker in rap history was a man with no country and a general with no army. Okay? Now, on the flip side, they say, it is essential to note Drake's career is not over. He's still a star. Whatever direction he decides to undertake in music will be in demand. That being said, the value of a Drake feature, aka the Drake stimulus package and single moving forward, once the most powerful commodity in rap, is unclear. Sexy Red's You My Everything and Snow Day's Wagwan Delilah were both released after the beef. Neither became major hits, and the latter was widely panned. Even Drake's feature on the remix to Four Bats Date at 8 in March was dubbed lukewarm at Billboard. Nevertheless, the coveted title of the greatest of all time he chases is no longer in reach, they say, or Justin says, the writer. He says the losses don't eliminate Drake from such contention. His music becoming baseless, starved of motivation, and deprived of meaningful creativity lately has done that. It's how he moved in said clashes and how at times doltish those moves were. In hindsight, they come off even more so as if they weren't already. His lyrics will be dissected to an intense degree, and how he stood and fell against Lamar will be judged. Talking recklessly on records is par for the course in hip-hop, yet the moment Drake does so again, and it will, he'll be reminded of how spring 2024 objectively changed the direction of his mammoth career. This logic, fair or not, will follow Drake. And that's the thing that I take away from it, right? Drake has a big fan base. They're going to support. They're going to show up on tours. They're going to buy the music. They're going to play the music, and they're going to do it with even more motivation because they want to keep him at the top. So when he does release something, they're going to come out, like I said, they're going to come out and make it seem like they love the fried chicken knowing it's unseasoned, right? So even if he drops great music, they're going to ride extremely hard. And even if he drops mid or whack music, in order to keep him in the conversation, they're going to try to act like what he's putting out is straight fire, even if behind the scenes they're puking it out, right? So I think that's where Drake is at. Like he said, the scrutiny, the dissecting of the lyrics, to hear every little bar that he says, every production choice, every female artist that he now aligns himself with all have to be over the age of 21, maybe even 25. Otherwise, niggas is gonna be looking at that shit like, what the fuck's going on? I would even bargain to say 30, being that he's about to hit 40. But we all know that ain't his taste. But yeah, everything about his life moving forward is going to be under a microscope to see, does he or does he not fall back into the old ways, which are already the ways that people have brought into question. It's just what it is. Okay. Joe Budden came out, and I know y'all don't fuck with Joe like that, but he came out and basically said that the destruction or the annihilation of Drake, or just this moment, because he doesn't think that he's annihilated, was a culmination of things. He feels like he was one of the first people that, and he was one of the first people that was actually willing to diss Drake. It was actually Joe Budden who rapped way back in, I don't know if, what was it, 2016 maybe? He was the first one that actually alleged that he was getting work done on his abs. Not a lot of people heard that song, but he was one of the first people that made that record. Then Pusha T came out and did the story of Adidon, exposed the child. Also talked about the deal situation and all of those different things. Exposed, some of the money that Drake was putting up to try to find information on him. All things that he was also trying to do with Kendrick. So in 2024, he feels like there was a passing of a baton that allowed Kendrick to destroy his reputation and to effectively embarrass him in front of the world, right? I don't disagree with Joe. I mean, history is history. These things did take place, but I think Kendrick was the correct messenger. Joe Budden never had, as an artist, the megaphone that Kendrick has. Pusha T has never and will never have the type of megaphone that Kendrick has. And he was able to take, in the time where Drake was out here taunting him and dancing and acting like everything was all good, wearing Compton College t-shirts and just going crazy, Kendrick was at the crib doing his research. You know what I mean? Let's really look into this nigga. What angle can I go? I'm not finna make no calls and try to, we ain't got to do that. Pull up the laptop. I'm gonna be in the corner. I'm gonna write my shit and hit record. Fuck him. So that's how it went. However, there's some people out there, Jazzy Faye, namely one of them, who is fighting back, and he's continuing to defend Drake despite everyone else having whatever their position is. Jazzy Faye decided to come out and jump to his defense. He says, what they all fail to realize is Drake has something none of them have. He says, Drake has the women and pop culture. Don't at me, he says. This is not a rap battle. It's the music business. Nothing and nobody stops great music. But Nipsey left y'all with the key. Word, marathon. Now, I find this to be a very interesting take from Jazzy Faye because he is from the West Coast. He's made his bones. He's made his career in the South, but he is originally from the West Coast. But I think he's stalling out on the hope that maybe one day he could get a Ladies and Gentlemen on a Drake track. It's not going to happen, Jazzy. Pop culture, yes. But let's be clear. Pop culture also goes with what's popular. So if Drake gets cold on the heels of this, or it's perceived that Drake is cold, or Drake is the person not to stand next to, they'll isolate from his ass too. Right? They ain't had no problem isolating from the baby. Motherfuckers, Dua Lipa said, oh, I got a song with this nigga. Can it? Drake and the baby are definitely not on the same level, but it just goes to show you black male rappers, in the heat of the moment, if shit gets a little too hot, they will dispose of your ass, Drake included. You see Camila Cabello and Sabrina, whatever the fuck her name is, they done push their releases back. They keep pushing their releases back. They about to push their shit back like Stephen A. Hairline. just to try to wait it out and see when is it going to be safe to put these Drake records out. It ain't. You might as well drop them, because if you keep holding on to them, your shit ain't going to drop till next year. This nigga talking about Drake has the women. Jazzy Faye, have you not seen what's going on lately? Especially from the black women. They're repulsed by this guy today. Drake's fans, since around her loss, maybe even before, that fan base has changed. It went from women and children loving Drake and hip hop heads to a primarily somewhat of an incel fan base. Women are tired of the nigga. They're the main ones that were calling him out for being damn near 40, still trying to assimilate to what young teenagers was into. The women are mainly the ones who were already calling him out for his weird behavior. I would even go far as to, because crazy thing is, I saw a whole video of early Drake, 2009 Drake, when he was doing those tours, kissing women on stage, doing that whole "how old are you" thing, and he kept coming across 16 and 17 years old so much, 17-year-olds so much that he had to like demand the crowd, hey, all right, it's that part of the show. If you got your cameras on, pause or stop your camera so I can ask how old this girl is before I kiss her. It was a whole it was like 25 videos. And I'm like, this nigga was weird back then. We had already seen that one with the 17-year-old, but the fact that he didn't cut that shit off, it's like, bro, you was cool with playing with fire. So to say that the women are with you, I don't know. I would even guess some of the women that are against you today are the ones that are looking back at those moments, may have been actually on stage with you, looking at them a little bit unceremoniously in their adulthood. But you know, narratives, man. So there we have that. Let's move on. Another person that everybody hates, Whack 100, came out and he spoke on how Drake's words using YG's name in Family Matters has come back to bite him, talking about, you know, who really claim to set my nigga YG. And then YG popped out at the pop out and performed and was doing the dance on stage with all the sections, all the reputables up there dancing with fucking Russell Westbrook, Schoolboy Q, all them niggas, right? And let's just hear what Wack had to say about that situation. Shall we? Y'all give me a second.
The West Coast is behind Kendrick. Huge L for Drake.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt.
The worst part about that was YG.
Because he got mentioned in
He name
the
dropped.
Drake song.
Drake could never perform that song and mention YG's name.
Oh.
But see, he did that to himself because if YG didn't approve of that, by you doing that, you'll have K-Dot looking at YG, two niggas from Compton, like, my nigga, like, what you own? So he had to step out there and be like, bro, leave my name
But
out of
YG
that.
had a song a couple weeks ago, too, where he basically said, like, when there's smoke, don't put my name in it. Basically telling Drake, I don't appreciate you throwing my name in the mix there, even though we may have had a good relationship over the years. You know, you're really seeing how people's loyalty, as much as, you know, giving people career opportunities can help make them loyal to you, still at the end of the day, the street shit, the gang shit, the where you're from shit matters much more.
Hell yeah, that matter. First of all, Kendrick Lamar is the most relevant, biggest thing in Southern California. I mean, on the West Coast, period, as far as I'm concerned. So why the would YG want to be in bad standings with that for no reason? And they from the same city.
Right.
That's crazy. YG did what he was supposed to do.
So the question is,
There you have it. YG did what he was supposed to do. Why would he want to be at odds with this man from his own town? See, Drake overestimated those relationships. Just because you've gotten on features and done remixes for niggas, you thought that you had a pass. You don't get a pass, right? You get safety and protection. You get a sense of security when you come out here. We fuck with you. But when you fuck with one of ours, we're going to have to, hey, this is when real life comes into play, right? Because YG, Kendrick being from the same town, who knows how long they've known each other through their affiliations, right? A cousin here, a homeboy there, somebody dated somebody over here. That shit means something, especially in these neighborhoods where sometimes you can't even go there if you don't know somebody, right? That shit is gonna go way deeper than rap. It's gonna go way deeper than, okay, you hopped on a remix for me, we made some good money together. But at the end of the day, somebody like a YG showing that alliance, showing that solidarity with Kendrick at the pop out lets you know over here is family. With you is business. I look at you like Steve Jobs, my nigga. Rest in peace. But it's like, you're the money play. You're the safe bet when it comes to a guaranteed check, right? So the relationship that we've had has been cordial. It's been good. You know what I'm saying? Who knows how many times they may have hung out at the club, hung out at the after parties, scouted women together, all of that different type of shit. Yeah. When it's time for a good time, we're good. But when it comes to the relationships that are foundational, where they come from, that is a totally different thing. That was based on life or death in their upbringings. And niggas is not going to cross that if they don't really got a reason to. And Kendrick is basically standing up as the grand unifier in all of this. So no, niggas ain't going against that because he's offering opportunities from the underground up. You know what I'm saying? You know how many people are probably going to get deals off of that pop-out performance? I saw the very next day after the pop-out performance, somebody was like, hey, y'all would not believe how many companies are hitting me up looking for authentic West Coast vibes and artists on the heels of this show, which means opportunities are coming, whether that be for TV and film opportunities, for their music to get synced, whether that be for record deals, commercials, all types of shit. And that's what we call a paradigm shift. Okay? So all of this shit is deeper than music. So Drake fans, y'all are in for a long year. That's all I can say.
King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rags. Leading my people like quarterback. Boy, I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef for computers, I'm straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. With drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they doubted me. All of a sudden they tell me they proud of me. I been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some battery. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. When I catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.